Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very passionate talking about investment, personal finance, money management, all this because there's a whole story behind it. Why I'm passionate about it, and I think it's important for people to know how to manage their money.
Yeah, for sure. And I think nowadays, especially with lots of people trying to do different things, build a business, even investing and stuff like crypto and all that kind of stuff that's come up recently. Everyone's trying to get into that world. So I think there's a lack of information out there for, let's say,
Yeah.
someone who wants to start from zero. So I thought, the work you do and your podcast would be super useful for people like that. But before we get into, the details and everything, Yasi, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself and we can take it from there.
Okay, sure. So I was originally born in China. Then I moved to Singapore when I was 18, 19 years old for further study. So after moving there, I get a chance to work in the US during the summer for a work and travel program. And during that time, I discovered my true passion is to travel, right? And to
Yeah.
explore the world and to meet different people from different cultures. And ever since then, I lived in 8 different countries for work, for
Oh,
study.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so Switzerland is the 8th country. So in the US, in Europe, different countries, Northern Europe, Africa, Asia, also Shanghai and Singapore. Um, and then so I'm always about having this freedom, and I'm a free spirit. So I think that tied back to what I'm doing today is that I want to create um, I want to create a lifestyle that I am able to decide when and how I manage my time.
Sure.
So that leads to what I'm doing today, which is one side I'm developing this podcast, and then to create this fast track money course with Matthias, so that we can help people understand how to manage their money. Because essentially, to me, money is a tool for me to achieve the freedom I want. And
Yeah.
on the other hand, with the marketing agency company that we're helping blockchain startups to bring their products to the marketplace, it's also tied back to the rich dad poor dad Robert Kiyosaki cash flow
Yeah.
quadrant, that you need to be in the B and in the I, so that you don't trade your time for money. So that's one of the reasons why I also started this business, because I have worked 10 years in marketing and I'm very passionate about tech startups. And yeah, that's a great combination.
Yeah, no, for sure. And thank you for sharing that background. And wow, eight countries. That must have been a pretty amazing experience working in different cultures and in different places and so on. So, and I really like what you talked about, how what you do now is related to what you like and what you want for yourself, which is that freedom, and to help other people find more freedom in their lives by being able to manage their time, and their money correctly. So that's awesome. So let's start, I guess, let's start with money then. You guys said something. I was doing my research, and on your website, you guys talk about, for the Fast Money course, is making money an effective tool to fulfill your dreams. Now, I think myself, maybe, and I think a lot of other people at the moment maybe have a misconception about money that is wrong. Maybe we don't have the best relationship with money either. So could you tell us a little bit more about your mindset towards money, how people like me and people like a lot of people should be looking at that, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So Fast Track Money course with Financial Imagineer is the collaboration I did with Matthias Richter. So he called himself Financial Imagineer, because the idea is that you can engineer your life, but with using money is a tool. So money is not a goal, but it's a tool. So what it means by using money as a tool to fulfill your dreams is that, imagine when we are young, we have a lot of human capital. Human capital means you can trade your basically your labor for money, right? So you work 8 hours per day, then you get paid. But when you're younger, you can work more. You can work 2 jobs. You can work like in consulting, investment banking, more high intense job that you earn more money. But when you get older, in your 50s, right, late 40s, 50s, or early 60s, you tend to have less energy. Then at that time you have less human capital. So that will we talk about human capital. So when you're young, you can imagine the curve going down with time. And on the other hand, there's financial capital. Financial capital is your investments, your assets, your cash. your financial capital is very low at the beginning. I mean, if you don't inherit a lot of money from your family, usually it's when salary level usually goes up when you have more experience, right? So people when they're young, they have time, but they don't have money. When people that are old, right, when they retire, they have a lot of time, but they might not have that much money if they didn't know how to, invest properly when they're younger. So the point here is how to leverage your human capital when you're younger to accumulate your financial capital as fast as possible, as to the most extent optimized way possible, so that when you reach late 40s or 50s or 60s, then you would have built up a large sum of financial capital, which will generate passive income for you. By then, you don't need to exchange your human capital for income, but your financial capital is working for you, that you can live your life, you can travel, you can deploy your assets in the ways that generate enough cash flow to cover your living expenses.
Sure.
So, but, that's ideal scenario.
Yeah,
but if people don't know how to manage their money, how to invest, if they don't start young, if they don't start early, they will never have enough time to let their financial capital to compound, because compound takes time.
Yeah.
So if they start in the 20s, let's just say if they invest in S&P 500 for 10 years, let's say last 10 years is one of the best 10 years, but if you look at 20, 30, 40 years, it's always return is always between minimum 7%, I think 7 to 10% at least. So let's just say 10% per year. If you invest starting in your 20s, let's say 25 till 35 in S&P 500, then 10 years later, you would have doubled all your money.
Yeah.
But the same thing happened, the same 10 years, right? If you don't start in your 25, if you start in your 45, you still need the 10 years to double. But you cannot make it 5 years. You still need the 10 years. So in order to let compound to kick in, the first 10 years it doubled, the next 10 years, it can triple, quadruple 10 times. The longer time horizon you have, stay invested, the faster your financial capital will make more financial capital for you. So the point here is, if you are younger, in your 20s, 30s, or early 40s, you start invested now, then later you would have more financial capital than if you think, oh, I'm so busy, let me start next year, I will figure it out later, I'm too busy with my job. But people don't see the right priority. Your priority is your own life before your job. So you have to figure out what's the priority for you and how to do it in a way that would work for you later in life. And then you do your daily job, then why you're working for it, because it makes you income, then you save, then you invest, then where is your goal, what you want to achieve. So that's what we mean by use money as a tool to fulfill your dreams. So your dreams can be your hobby, anything you want to do, but most of the people, they are not doing that on a daily basis, because either those activities are not making them money, or they cannot think about a way to perform those activities in a way to make them money, or they have been educated in a way that they have a finance degree, they work in the banks for 10, 20 years. It's hard for them to give up everything and to switch career. So the risk is too high. So there are lots of reasons why people are not doing, fulfilling their dreams. So the point here is, if you have enough financial capital, you don't need to work for making money, because your financial capital is enough to cover expenses. Then you are living your dreams. You do whatever you enjoy doing. So that's the key concept here, to start from the why. You need to really understand how to use money as a tool. Actually, it's for your life, to live the way you want to live.
Yeah. And I think the way you guys have described it between human capital and financial capital, and when you take into account the stuff you talked about, like why it's so important to start younger, because you need that time. You lose if you start, let's say, at 35 to 25, like you were saying, you lose that 10 years of potential compounding that that you have to wait now for it to get to that level. So I think listening to that example, it's simple, and it makes sense to me, at least. And I think it gives you a new perspective on how you should be thinking about it. People think about, I want to invest. A lot of times, especially maybe people that are younger, they want to invest for a quick return. But when you think of it from your perspective, it's the earlier you start, basically, the earlier you get to that freedom that you're looking for. You might get there faster. It might take longer, but the earlier you start, the better chance you have. So I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's a really good way to think about it. So what do you say to people? That famous saying, money can't buy happiness. Now, obviously, a lot of people have talked about this. They say that money is not everything, and I think that saying, I understand what people are trying to say by that, but at the same time, that I think it takes away sometimes takes away from how the importance you should be placing on your money and your financial future. So what do you say about that? What are your thoughts on, that famous saying?
I have one phrase that I like. There are a few phrases, okay? One is, without money, you double your problems.
I like that. I haven't heard that before. Okay.
So for example, if let's just say, if you are in, I don't know, if you get a fine for speeding tickets, right? And you don't have money. So first, your problem is you have to pay for the tickets. And then secondly, if you don't have money, you need to find enough money to pay for that fine. So, not having enough money, double your problems in almost all situations. All situations.
Yeah.
So, and then second thing is, money cannot buy happiness, but most of the unhappy times are caused by money, by not having enough money.
True. That's actually very true.
And one of the sentences I like, my mom told me, because before, when I was living alone abroad, I oftentimes had a lot of challenges in life because I have to deal with them myself. And I was like a student, I didn't make a lot of income. And then my mom would told me, if this problem can be solved by money, it's not a problem. And that made me think, oh yeah, okay, now I feel much better. I don't have to stress over it, right? I mean, it's a way just to console myself, not that I have to waste or spend my money to deal with everything. But back to what you said, like, money cannot buy happiness, but I would say in most of scenario, having enough money can help you solve many problems or avoid many problems.
Yeah.
So money is not evil. If you use it correctly, it's actually helping you to live a better life.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And I think and at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do, right? Everyone wants that freedom. Everyone wants to have enough money so they don't have to think about, making money. You've made your amount and now you can live your life. Coming back to what we're talking about, your dream life, as we were talking about earlier. But I really like that what you said, that without money,
not
all
having
your problems
enough
are doubled.
money.
Yeah,
double your problems.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a tool, right? You have to see money as a tool, not as a goal. It's a tool, and how to use the tools it's your toolbox box, right? How to use the tools to engineer your life in a way that works best for you.
Yeah. And to use it as a tool correctly, you need to have, I think, some education behind it. You need to understand how is it, the value of it, how things like compounding works, how to, structure you have to have a financial plan and so on. But I think unless you worked or were involved in the financial sector in that world, a lot of people don't have that education and that, and that knowledge. So I guess the question is, why is that so important information that's that important? Why is that so lacking, like, across the board? And what do we have to do, like, from our side? If we don't know where to start, how do we fix it? I know you have a course, but we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah. So come back to your question. There are 2 points I want to highlight.
Sure.
Even people who work in the financial sector, they might not know how to manage their money properly. Why I said that?
Okay, interesting.
Why I said that? I have to say, I have a finance degree. Okay, my undergraduate study, I have a finance degree, but I didn't invest properly, or I didn't manage my money the way that it should be managed until I'm in my early 30s. Okay. So I just put that up front. And then also I have a friend, she never invested. She just saved. She saves the money for the family. She managed the family finances in a way, just, her husband makes income, she makes income, then she put expenses at the side, and the rest she just put in the bank. And she is accountant. She has more than 20 years experience, accounting experience. So I have to put it up front there.
Sure.
People have a finance degree or work in the financial sector does really not mean that they know how to manage their personal finance. It's
Okay. Okay.
yeah, but if they understand the compounding effect, time value of money, it helps them to understand the concept when it comes to investing. So, and the point number two, I think your question is about for people who do not have those knowledge, how would
Yeah.
they start, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is a life skill that anyone can learn. It's not rocket science. It's not about taking out your calculator and you have to calculate all these numbers in a very complicated way. It's really
Sure.
about a mindset, a way of looking at money as a tool, and the way of looking at how you want to live your life and what kind of finances you need to support that lifestyle, and then work backwards and how are you going to achieve that amount, right? It can be a fixed amount, a goal, or it can be like a cash flow goal. And so I think it's very, it's like a misconception. It's not that complicated. It's really simple. It's a way to understand how money works and how you live your life, and then reverse engineer everything and then learn the basics of investing. I would just say, if you read the books from Borgelhead or if you know ETF investing, everybody can do that. You don't have to trade stocks. You don't have to read Financial Times, Wall Street journals, right? You just have your portfolio ready, 3 to 4 investment, let it run, dollar cost averaging, close your eyes, 10 years, 20 years, and then you can use it.
That's you made I think you made a very good point about that. That's why people have a misconception. And I think what happens as well is when you don't understand it and when you don't maybe have the knowledge of how simple it can be, for you, there's a fear that you have, it's like in the bank, it's safe. I can look at my account every month and I know I have this much. This is how much I have. This is my runway for the next year, 6 months, whatever. But when you want to start investing, you're like, okay, I'm taking out from that saving that I really like and I'm comfortable with in the hope to make more money. So obviously there's risk associated with everything, but I think that's where the fear starts to come in, especially when you don't understand it as well. What do you think?
Yes. And one of the points you just mentioned, I think it's very good that you mentioned here, because a lot of people are thinking like that, runway. And when we talk about like achieving your financial freedom or retire early, people think, wow, you need to have like hundreds of millions, because they think they need to make, let's say, 100 million. And then every year they need to, spend 100K. Then they just deduct from that pot of money, a little bit by a little bit. So that's what most people think. But in reality, it's not, because if you build up your financial capital will generate the cash flow for you. For example, like dividends. That's one way. If you invest in real estate, you can have rental income. There are different ways that your financial capital can generate a monthly cash flow. So if you have a pot of money just right there, it won't become less, but it can generate enough cash flow that support your daily expenses. So you don't need to make 100 million. Maybe 1 million would be enough, right? Or 1.5, or even 800K would be enough, depends on where you're living in the world. So I think that's one of the misconceptions. And then coming back to the investing, I'll say a few statements here. Let the audience decide if they feel the same. Sure. Investing is very risky because they don't know when they should buy and sell. Investing takes a lot of time because they need to do the analysis. They need to read a lot of reports, and then they don't have enough time. And investing is only for rich people. They don't have enough money to invest.
Yes. I think the last one you said is probably the biggest one. Because like you were talking about earlier, that when we're younger, you have human capital, but you don't have a lot of financial capital. So you're like, I have a small amount to invest. So I don't think even with investing, I'm going to make that much more. So it's safer for me to leave it in the bank. I think the last point is super important.
Yeah. So coming back to the investing, right? So if you are new to investing, I think before starting to invest your money in the market, first understand how money works, have the right money habits, and then have your budget sorted out, have an emergency fund at the side, and then study some basic strategies for you, maybe 3-fund portfolio or just one ETF, total world. That's one of the most popular one. And then you understand how it works. You understand the basics of investing. You just need to understand the basic principles. You don't have to read charts and do analysis every day. Once you understand that, then when you start to invest your money really in the market, you will feel much more comfortable with it. Even the price dipped 10% next day, you can still sleep very well. You won't like do the panic sell. So I would strongly recommend everyone first to understand how money works, get your habits right, get your mindset right, and then understand the basics of investing, the basic principles, and then start it by maybe a small amount just to test it out, how comfortable you are with the movement of the market. And then you can start to put more in savings in your investment and then let it roll for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So that will avoid some, undesired actions by people who don't really understand the basics of investing, such as panic sell, such as started to trade frequently, when they should not have. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice, and the way you structured it. First of all, understanding how money works, building those important habits, budgeting the right way, and then learning some basic investing. I think those four are crucial things that, and I think, like you said, it's a life skill that anyone should know or understand about themselves, so they know when they're making those moves what they should do and so on. And I think listening to you, the safe bet from an investment perspective is put it in and let it run long term. 10 years, 20 years, like a long term, it's a safe bet, and you should be in a good spot further down the line. Now, the reason I bring that up is so I always wanted to know what to invest in. This beginning of last year, I'm like, okay, I want to learn how to invest. And my friend was just on my ass about, bro, you have to get into crypto, and so on. So I just jumped in, head first. I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I started trading a little bit here, a little bit there. But I also learned, I made so many mistakes. I took a trading course because I wanted to do day trading, and it was very stressful. And also I used leverage, which was a terrible idea. So many lessons were learned along the way. But I'm like, it's okay. This is the price I'm paying to learn and to do this, hopefully, long term. And I guess the question I had to you is, so kind of moving into like the crypto world and blockchain and so on. So around last year, there was all this hype about crypto. It became like top of mind. Everyone, news channels were talking about it. For some reason, last year, it really, like, from my perspective at least, it blew up, and people that have never traded before got into it and so on. And now we're seeing another explosion this year or the last few months with NFTs. So it's this whole new world about that and opportunities to invest in and so on. But I think it's attracting a lot of people, but maybe for the wrong reasons, because the hype you hear around it is, buy this, you'll make 10x, 20x, 30x in a week, 2 weeks, 10 days. So how do you think that's affecting the mindset of people like that are looking to invest and get into those kind of things?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because getting rich fast is always something, let's say, I don't want to say something negative about it, but the almost guaranteed way is being proven, right?
Yeah.
Is the compound effect is to let time do the work for you. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you look at the equity market, let's just say, I love ETFs, because ETF, I think, is just for almost for everyone. If you look at the ETF, you buy total world 4,200 companies or so. If you think the world is still developing and is still growing, new technology, everything, the company is doing better and better, would you think that the price of the ETF will go up or go down? Right? If you have 4,200 companies in the portfolio, and if you believe the world will always become better and better, of course the price will go up based on your own assumption. So if you look at the 5, 10, 20, 30 years time, it has always been going up. But if you zoom into a month, if you zoom into an hour, if you zoom into 1 minute, yeah, it fluctuates like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Then if people look at like a 1 hour chart, like,
Yeah.
oh, I will not invest at all. It's too risky. But if you look at 10 years time horizon, 20 years, 30 years, that's why getting rich fast or quick is something I personally feel very doubtful about, because I know there's another way that you can almost guaranteed to increase your financial capital by invested in the ETF, right? And then coming back to NFTs, and I know a lot of people made a lot of money by trading NFTs or investing in some of the, let's say, tokens that they do staking with high yield.
Yeah.
Personally, if I'm a money coach, if the person already have this emergency fund sorted out, understand how money works, have their own portfolio already set it up, and they have very steady income, and they have extra money, and they understand the project ins and out, and they believe in it, yeah, they can invest. But for people who don't have emergency funds set aside, who don't understand how money works and how investing works, who don't have the their own portfolio set up to run over the long run, that to guarantee their retirement money,
Yeah.
then I think they are risking their financial future. They're just like a betting. But I have to say, I have friends in the circle, they started their own project, or they really understand technologies. They know what they're doing, and they know if it's a hype project, then they leverage on the hype, then they exit, right? There are people that really they know it. But if you are those type of people, yes, just do, because you know what you're doing. But for the majorities, I think it's just you have to know what you are doing, not just following the hype.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really good advice about, it's not that it's impossible, but I think you made a good point that there's so much you should have, or you should focus on having in place before you enter such a volatile world that like of NFTs, and cryptos and so on. So I think that's really good advice. And I like what you said, like, why you're not saying anything negative about it, but like if I do this long-term thing with something that's safe, like if I'm going really long-term, 10, 20, 30 years, this is a guarantee, you know what I mean? So it's just, I guess it depends on the person, where they are in their life, what's their financial situation as well, and what they want as well. Do they want to be a bit riskier now, or do they want to let it run for a while? But I wanted to come back to before we round off this whole the money part of the conversation, to your course, the Fasttrack Money course. So I took a look at it, and it was really interesting. I liked how it was set up and the process that you guys you take people through. I have two questions for you. Number one, what made you decide to, create it? What was that process look like? Like, how did you put the program together? And then I'll follow up with another one.
Okay. So why I wanted to do this course is, I have to say, I'm very grateful for the, say, tragic events happened in my life that make me realize that I need to learn how to use money as a tool, and with not having enough money doubles the problem. Okay. You see, so in 2020, in 2020, that's the time when we have the COVID situation, right? Actually, 1 month, 2 months before the COVID situation, there's my family member was diagnosed with like very illness. Like it can incur, let's say, prolonged medical bills. It's an unpredictable situation. But then so I was checking on the internet, where is the best treatment in the world? Okay, US, many of them are in the US. And if you don't have private insurance, how much would it cost? And it would cost up to 400,000 USD per year.
Yeah.
400,000 USD per year. And if you don't have that much money, if you do not have enough money, right, that means the chance to receive that kind of treatment is zero. So what I translated from that information to me is, having money means you can live longer. Having money means you can either have a chance to live or die, or live longer. At that time, I feel like, oh my God, you can put a price tag on life. Wow. And that kind of like shocked me. That information really shocked me. And then 1 month later, I came back to Switzerland and I also did a medical checkup because I haven't done it for a few years. I was like, okay, let me do it. Then my doctor found out there was a 15 centimeter like cyst in my belly, 15 centimeter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I always thought I have like a digestion problem. Some of the audience might think, oh, how would you not know that if you have a 15 centimeter cyst in your belly? Know that you don't have symptoms, you don't have, it doesn't cause anything like in your daily life. So that's why I was never pay attention to it, because I always have kind of like a little bit digestion problem for, I don't know, 10 plus years. So I never paid attention to it. Then I need the operation. And when I went to the hospital, because I have a private hospital insurance in Switzerland, and I went to the hospital at the check-in, then someone came down to pick me up, took me to the room, and I went to the room. It's a one-person room. And then I have a lake view on Lake Lucerne with the mountains in the back. It feels like a 5-star hotel. And compared to when I was then back in China in the hospital, what I've seen is like, oh my God, it's such a big difference.
Yeah.
It's such a big difference. And I stayed there. It feels like a 5-star hotel. My husband was there with me on the first day, and then he can order food directly from the restaurant there. He even ordered like a steak. Everything is like a 5-star hotel. This is unbelievable. So that was the positive experience I had for the operation that makes me realize, oh, I have this opportunity to afford a private hospital insurance. That's why even I need operation is such a pleasant experience. And then a month later, after I was at home for the recovery, a month later I went back to work, and then 2 weeks 2 weeks working from home because of COVID situation. Then I had a phone call with my boss at the time, and then because it was a tech startup because of COVID, and then they decided to just remove my department. Then they can reduce the expenses for companies so the company can survive, which I understand. Usually for startups, you have to have a small burn rate so the company can at least survive.
Yeah, true.
And then I'm the head of the department, which means my jobs will be gone in 2 months' time. So that whole 3 months make me feel like there's no, like, I feel very insecure with my life because there's no stability of like a health part, family part, and also I would not have any income. So I never had I did lose a job for 10 years. I never even thought about it. I thought, oh, I can always find a job. So that was the moment that triggered me. I was thinking, if I have enough money, I wouldn't even be stressed about this. If I don't have a job, it's okay. Then not having a job, right? And then I have to apply for annual leave to fly back to China, visit my families. And then I didn't have enough annual leave. So I have to take unpaid leave so that the company granted for it. Then I thought, if I have enough assets and I have the freedom to deploy my own time, I don't need to apply for annual leaves. I can fly whenever I want to fly, right? So the whole sequence of events really woke me up, make me realize that, okay, really, money is a powerful tool that can solve a lot of problems in life, and how I can learn how to use it properly, even just to prepare for the medical expenses for my families if they need. And then during that time, I was writing a lot of articles about investing, personal finance. And then Matthias, he read my articles online, and he started to chat with me online on Facebook. And we discovered that we both lived in Singapore, and his wife is from Taiwan. So very interesting. And then he has been doing the right thing all his life since he was a teenager. He has been saving, he has been earning, he has been investing, and he has been doing this all his life. That's why when he was 37 years old, he achieved financial independence, moved his family from Singapore to Switzerland. He works at home. During the week, he could take his kids to this the carnival events in the city, while other dads probably they are working in front of the computer, right, on Wednesday or Thursday. So I think then we started to talk about the whole personal finance, financial independence topic. Then I had an idea to really helping more people who were like me before, young professionals earning okay, never invested properly, never learned how to use my money properly. I just think, oh, I just work till when I retire, then I get my retirement money. But then there are some people, they want more in life, right? They don't just want to work till they retire. They want to have more freedom, they can buy their own time from employment so that they can deploy their own time with their families, friends, traveling. So that's the reason why we want to do this, because he's a believer, strong believer in using money as a tool to fulfill your dreams. And I am the person who was on the other side, not educated, don't know what to do, suffered from some life events, then woke me up that to understand how important it is to have this things sorted out. So that's why we want to combine all the knowledge together and with lots of passion through this course, and help more professionals, young professionals, who are earning okay, but they are suffering from, let's say, from lifestyle inflation. They're not investing. They're, doing the wrong things. Yeah, so that's the purpose that we have, to really help people understand how money works and how to step by step achieve financial independence and understand what to do.
Yeah. Wow, that's that sequence of events that's like life changing, to experience that kind of stuff from a family member, and then your own stuff, and then COVID. So like what I appreciate is that this course has been designed from a big lesson that you learned in your life, and there's a lot of, besides, yes, you want people to manage their stuff, there's a lot of passion behind it, because you want people to not experience the same things that you went through, and to have those realizations themselves, so they can, start preparing from now, so that because life happens sometimes, shit's gonna happen. Like, you don't know what happens today, tomorrow. Who would have thought there'd be a pandemic? Who would have thought we'd be here 2 years later? So there's so many unexpected things that can happen. So I really admire that you took the lessons you took from that and made something that can help a lot of people, and I appreciate that, and I think a lot of people would appreciate that as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, because there's one concept called the ikigai. I also learned this from, Matthias also told me this. The ikigai concept from Japan is the four circles,
right?
That overlap with each other. And I find then we both recognize that, like, doing this course is our ikigai, because before, when we have live courses, we spent more than 1 hour per session, even though it's like 1 hour. Sometimes it lasts to 2 hours just to answer the questions and chat with students, because it's like so interesting. And then how the course was structured is literally, I think just Matthias summarized all his game plan in these 6 modules. He has been implementing it himself. It's like a proven game plan, proven strategy. He has already done it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing it. I'm on the same path, and I already feel much better with our a financial situation and everything.
Yeah, no, and that really does make a lot of sense. And I love, my favorite module out of all of it was the last one, module 6, which is a build the fuck you setup. So could you just tell us a little bit more about what is that? Why do we need one? And I think that's a fantastic name.
Okay, that module is so to give your audience a little bit background. So we build up like step by step, right? Understand how money works, the mindset, the habits, the savings, the earning, the investing, and then the system. So when it comes to the system, that when you understand all the building blocks before, and now you develop so with the course, after you finish the course with all the Excel and the tools, you would have a system in place. You would actually know how much asset you will have in 5, 10, 20 years down the road. Then you wouldn't have it automated. And then you keep your life going like this for 5, 10 years. If there was some smart investment you did in your life, let's say a good property investment on the market price, hugely rental income, etc., or big bonus, promotion, something like that, then you can fast track your path. Then with this system, we call it the setup, then it will help you to achieve your financial goal or where you want to be. By then, your financial capital would be enough to sustain your daily expenses. So if you're not happy at work, then anytime you're ready to say fuck you and leave. So that's why it's called that way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's I love where the name came from and the idea behind it. So that if you just want to one day get up and like bounce, you can just say "fuck you," I'm out, and and I'll be fine. That's awesome. I really like the name because I saw it and it like struck me. I'm like, oh, I like that. I'd like to build something like that. I wanted to come on to the marketing side of things because I know you've been in marketing for over 10 years and so on. And I know you've worked across a lot of industries, across, with Heineken, Unilever, and then Coreledger, I believe, was the most recent one. What have you found, I guess, to be the similarities that you find no matter the industry? Because obviously each industry has its own audience, its own customers, its own mindset, how people think about that kind of stuff, to like looking at your experience from blockchain and, a beverage product and like all that kind of stuff. So I guess what are the similarities that you find across the board, no matter the industry?
Yeah, if we talk about marketing, right? I
Yeah.
think the same, again, principles apply across the industry. Is
Okay.
whenever a company or a project wants to promote their product or services, they really have to niche down and find out their exact perfect target audience. I think
Okay.
that's so true. And I have to, how do you say, I really wish a lot of more blockchain projects or NFT project would understand this. The co-founders of tech companies or tech startups would understand this. That's you have to understand who you are targeting, for whom is your products, what kind of problem you're solving, or what kind of value add are you bringing to them. Them is your target audience. And
Yeah.
then you have the core message. Then your marketing activities would be around this core message and communicating this core message to your target audience, right? In the most effective way possible. Can be videos, blogs, or I don't know, social media content, etc. So I think this one is core. But what the FMCG companies do really, really well, because marketing is kind of like the core departments, because it's all about brand, right?
Yeah.
If you say this peanut butter and the other peanut butter, okay, more or less the same. This detergent and the other detergent, they're more or lless the same.
Yeah.
But it's all about the brand.
Sure.
And what they do very well is to understand, they have like a portrait of target audience. Each target audience have its own unique personalities, lifestyle, etc. And then there's like a core value, brand value attached to this. And then during their design, during their commercials, during the promotions, they're all doing it in a way to fit into target audience taste.
Sure.
So I think it's very important. It's actually very basic for marketing, but nowadays what I've seen from the NFT project is they just I think it's the hype marketing, I would call it. The giveaways, lucky draws, airdrop, buy Twitter promoter, buy likes. Yeah, I think it's okay to use it for activation, but it's not sustainable if you want to build a trustworthy brand over a long term. If you are really building a business and a company or a project that's going to, bring value to the community over long term, you cannot just do the activation. You have to do the brand building stuff as well.
Yeah. And I think you made a great point about no matter the industry, it goes back to, the principle of what is marketing, which is at the end of the day, this is a process to target that specific audience that's going to resonate with your product or your service and really understand it. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, that's where you start. And then you put in like you said, the marketing activities to start pushing, towards that, whether social media and so on. But when we talk about, because I know you with Promote and Scale, there's a focus on blockchain startups. And what I thought was really interesting about that is a couple of things. So blockchain, as you know, not everyone, number one, even today, not everyone understands what blockchain is, what the technology is, what's the power behind it, what are the applications, how can it be used in your daily life. So the challenge, at least from my perspective, that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, is for companies like that it's very tech focused. And if you don't understand that world, you won't understand what they're trying to do for you. I would assume that would be quite challenging from a marketing perspective because I know a little bit about it, I understand it, but I still don't understand the tech behind it. I wouldn't understand how this project or company differs from this project or company and what technology they're using. So for the average person, I know we talked about target audience, but let's say you're trying to cast a wider net now. I can imagine that be quite challenging to market to the general public because there's such a lack of education surrounding it. And blockchain, I would say, only in the last 2 years has become, and thanks to crypto, has become very top of mind, and people are starting to actually try to learn and understand it. So, could you tell me about like what are the challenges you face with promoting blockchain?
Yeah. So from our side, the challenge about promoting blockchain projects is sometimes we want to do it the proper way,
Okay.
but the companies they want to do it like the quick way. They just spend some money on Twitter promoter, then they want to see the following. I think which is okay, but you cannot ignore the organic brand building side because that is going to be sustainable and long term. You have to do both together. So one is brand building, the other one is called activation. That's why when you draw the growth of the curve, it's not straight. It's more like this, like a wave going up. But the little waves, the little peaks are the activations you do. But the overall trend is the brand building activities you do. So I think one of the challenges would be to let the tech founders understand how to do marketing in a way that is going to help them achieve their business objective.
Okay.
And because sometimes they already jump into the next step is what needs to be done. Then they need to hire the person to do it for them. But the step before is this is what they want to achieve in terms of project level, business level, and then how marketing strategy or marketing plan to be designed in a way, helping them achieve that the most efficient way possible. And then we decide what to do next. So I think that's a little bit challenge for us while talking to tech startup founders. But in terms of communication, I don't think that's very challenging because I'm very good at conceptualizing. So the customers, right, the general publics, if they're the users, they don't care about the how. They only care about the why and the what. What I mean by that is if you are developing let's say crypto wallet, they only care about what you're a crypto wallet, and why they need to use yours, not MetaMask, or other hard drive wallet, like hardware wallet. They don't care about the thing itself. They care about why they need to use your products. So that is the why. Why is your unique value proposition. You tell them why you are different. And the how, why they don't care about how. The how is how you develop your crypto wallet, what is the code behind it, what is the specific technologies, which programming language you are using, all the technicalities. Like general users, they don't care about that, right? They only care about if your product can solve their problem. So I think for companies, they don't have to focus so much on explaining the tech, while they have to focus on translating the text into the values that they bring it to the customer. So I think that's where we come in as a marketing company for blockchain tech startups, is to help them communicate with the target audience better, and so that the target audience understand why they need to buy their products or services.
Yeah. And I think you made a good point that maybe I didn't consider. I thought, I guess just from the outside perspective, that the how would be very important, to understand like how these things work. But I think you made a good point that at the end of the day, all I care about as a customer is why are you doing this, and does this solve whatever problem I'm looking for it to solve, and is it simple enough to use. And I think that's a really good point that I didn't consider before, that the how is not irrelevant, but if you understand, okay, it's cool, but at the end of the day, as long as I get what you're doing and you help me with what the problem I have, that's all that matters. So I think that's a really good point that I didn't even consider either.
Yeah, I have a very interesting story to tell. So I heard from someone, his friends asked him, can you explain to me how blockchain works? And then this person replies, So when you open your web browser, you see this HTTP, right? HTTPS something something. Do you know what does HTTP mean? And they was like, okay, I don't know. So, but you're still using the web browser, right? Yes. So that's the answer for why I need to explain to you how blockchain works.
That's actually that's a great example. That's a great example. Very true. Like again, like you said, I don't know what that means, but I use it all the time, and it helps me with whatever I need to do. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, if you can transfer your money to another person, like right in the second, and then why do you need to figure out like how the tech the algorithm work, the blockchain, the validate, like you don't care as a general user, you don't care.
Yeah. That's true. That's a great point and a really good, really a really funny story. On the concept of NFTs. Now, I know very little. I kind of get what they're about. I get how they work, but from a I was curious from a marketing perspective, what's your view on NFTs, and is this something that you would maybe recommend, to your clients to create? Because I don't know from a marketing perspective, does that fit in the right way or doesn't it?
I think so from marketing's perspective, NFT is really, really a hype nowadays.
Okay.
So if a company wants to leverage on the hype, if they have something related to NFT, of course, you can be found through like keyword search, right? But there are other types of NFTs, which I find is very interesting. For example, we have clients and then they have like a hardware, and then the identity, the owner of this hardware was identified through an NFT. So the buyer would hold this NFT. And then there's another project is your NFT is your bank account. So you don't need to know the numbers. As long as the other person knows your username, they can transfer money to you. So in this case, I think the NFT is not about digital art, but more about, but more about the actual use of blockchain or the actual use of NFT itself. So that I find is very interesting. Personally, I'm not a like an art person, so I cannot appreciate so much about all these little, I don't know, like the King Kongs, the chickens,
Yeah.
I mean, just me. I'm not that type of person. So in real life, I also don't collect art. So I cannot imagine myself collecting digital art. Maybe in the future, but not now.
Not now, yeah. So from a marketing perspective, you think at the moment it's just like a hype thing that like a lot of people want to make NFTs of random things, that related to their company. That doesn't, it might not really translate later down the line, or what is that what you think?
Yeah, I think like to do marketing, right? If the company, if the NFT fits into your products, right?
Okay.
Like as a side
Gotcha.
thing, or it can be incorporated in your whole product line. I think that's very interesting. There's usage, there's a interconnection with all the other elements. And then when you communicate to the community, then it's interesting because now it's a hype keywords. But for projects who are promoting digital art, then that's by nature is NFT digital art. Then that's the way how they promote it, with collectibles, with building a community, and then they might have very famous artists behind it. So that could be very interesting for certain type of target audience. Mm-hmm. But then if a project, I say, you build your own thing, and then the NFT is completely not related to a project, but you try to build an NFT something just for the marketing purpose. I think we call it activation, like promotional activation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then maybe after the hype is over, then then we move on to something else as a brand activation. But fundamentally, you still have to run your brand building activities. So I think it can be used technically, or it can be, if it's incorporated in the whole product line, then we can promote it sustainably.
Gotcha. Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. So if it fits what you're doing and there's a genuine place for it, that could be an idea. But also, if you want to, from like you said, an activation perspective, just to increase exposure and so on, making it a collectible kind of thing, could have a place for it too. So if it fits and if it can be used, for an activation, then that would make sense. Okay,
and
I get you.
Yeah, and if you find the right target audience that would resonate with this NFT, then of course it's more effective.
Yeah, exactly. And again, coming back, I think, and we're gonna continue on this target audience perspective because I want to move on to the podcast. So I know so guys, whoever's listening, Yasi has a podcast called the Fasttrack Podcast, and I know it focuses from most of the ones I've seen, it's related, like it's in like it's financial sector-ish, I'd
money,
say. Money, that kind of stuff. So I guess what is for the people who don't know, could you tell us what is a podcast, what is it about, and what's the aim of the podcast? What are you trying to do with it?
Yeah, so when I started this podcast, that's still like 2020 when, at that time I had a lot of time. So I thought if money is not a problem, like I don't have to put food on the table, right? If money is a problem and I have time, what would I do even if I'm not paid? That's why I wanted to start a podcast, because
Awesome.
I'm a person who loves to share, right? When I learn something, when I find something useful, I love to share with everybody.
Yeah.
So having this podcast allow me to have the opportunity to interview great minds. I learn from people, and also I put a mic there, so my audience can also learn from my guests. And why I focus on 3 topics is money, career, entrepreneurship, because I ask myself, okay, what I'm interested in? Okay, I'm interested in the 3 topics. Okay, then let me talk about these topics.
Yeah.
Because I think if I'm interested in, I will attract audience who are also interested in these topics, right? So
True.
That's how I started my podcast. And then over time, I slightly, geared my topics towards to investment, personal finance, because I find it's kind of solve a major problem in our society. That is, people do not learn personal finance in school or from their parents most of the time. So I think that has more tangible impacts. After we run several batches of the Fast Track Money course, like we get great reviews, and everybody said, I wish I have known this earlier. Everybody. I said the same thing as well, of course.
Yeah.
So that would be funny, like if some of the audience would later learn personal finance, and would they think the same? I think probably yes. Like, everyone. I read a tweet online said, if I know all this, personal finance, I wish I could have started investing when I was in kindergarten. That was someone writing this. That was so funny.
That's a great tweet. That's a great tweet.
Yeah.
And I like that the mission of the podcast is kind of the same thing that I'm trying to do with mine, which is I learned so much from listening to podcasts and TED Talks, and just I wasn't even there, not even in the room, but I was able to listen to this conversation and it affected me so much. So kind of like you're trying to help people with their investments and their personal finances and so on, I'm trying to help people just I'm more broad. I'm just like, I hope that this guest, is interesting to you and that you learn something from it. And I wanted to move on to something because I read online, you guys have a blog post about how to start a podcast and so on. And there was a quote that you used, I can't remember who it's by, but the riches are in the niches. And
it's by Pat Flynn from SPI podcast.
There you go. So Pat Flynn, shout out to Pat Flynn.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that, because I do podcast consulting as well, so helping companies and brands launch their own podcasts. And what's interesting is when we talk about niche, and why is that important? So I've been back and forth, with my own podcast about should it be more niche, because mine is very general, you know what I mean? It's Joe Rogan based, but it's not like that. It's a bit more focused than his is, but his is completely general and so on. And he brings people from, if you ask them what is it about, no one could give you an answer because it's just conversations across the board. But I would advise people, if they want, especially businesses and stuff, if you're going to start a podcast, I think there should be an objective behind it. So what's your perspective of when finding, I guess, the niche for your podcast from like a business, I guess, from a business perspective? And do you think that, and how does podcasting nowadays, how's it affecting, do you think it's affecting marketing and so on and brands? And do you see this as the way forward for the next, 5-10 years?
I really believe in that, having your own show as a company, like from business, let's talk about business, right? For the company, if you run your own show and you talk about, the topics that related to a business, you establish the authority among your target audience. And
Authority.
Yes, authority and trust. Because if people are learning from you, they trust you more, right?
True. Yeah, that's true.
So for business, I think if they have enough resources, having a podcast is a very good marketing tool to help them build trust with the target audience, build authority, and also maybe even awareness. If they have enough resources and in-house. So that I believe is going to grow much bigger in the next years. But at a personal level, I think it's so easy to start a podcast nowadays. You can even start a podcast with zero investment.
Yeah.
And if it can be a hobby, it can be something like a side project with a partner or with your friends. It can be like a side hustle thing. And I think this podcast is really a great tool. And then you don't have to care about how you look like. You don't have to do makeup. You just like put a mic and then record it with Zoom and then edit it a little bit and upload. So easy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So you think that moving forward, podcasting from a business perspective or a brand perspective is a very powerful tool and will help you gain either raise awareness about whatever your company or your brand is, and become a trusted voice. I think you said something that's really, you're 100% right about, is if people are learning from you, they're gonna trust you. They're gonna trust you more, which then translates into trusting the brand or the company more.
Yes. And some people can use it for personal brand building. And it's so funny. I had like 2 phone calls with completely not related, something else, and it's like, oh, I think I heard about a podcast before. I was like, what? Okay. I guess it's a good thing because, people feel like they know me better because I share my opinions. I talk about topics they're interested in. I like it. As sometimes, the people writing to me on LinkedIn is like, oh, I like your podcast. Oh, that makes me feel very good. So I do podcasts. Is one thing is like I learn from my guests and I get to make more friends. And then probably I hope, my audience will find it useful and they might think about, okay, learning personal finance from me and Matthias. And if they decide not to, but it's also beneficial for them, I also find it's really great that if people really can take something valuable from those conversations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I resonate with that 100%. I'm trying to do the same thing with my podcasts. And like you said, I think one thing that I didn't expect from the podcast that has proven to be true was I didn't know how powerful of a networking tool it was. Like I've done, this is my 71st episode, me and you here together, and so people all over the world. So like we would have never met. We've never had an hour sit down conversation that we can get to know each other about an interesting topic that not only am I hopefully helping someone, but from a networking perspective, even from, that's why when I think of it from a business perspective, it opens so many doors for you that would have otherwise not been open. Because I've been on podcasts and I run my own, and I'm sure you have as well. You realize that it's interesting how like you being invited on a podcast means someone sees you as someone of value and they want to have you on the show, and vice versa. When you're bringing a guest on, like when you're reaching out on LinkedIn to someone, this is the way I think of it. When I was in sales, I'm making LinkedIn connections, but yes, my goal is, I'm trying to sell you something, so eventually you're going to get those messages like, oh, are you free for a call? I'd love to discuss all that stuff. But when I reach out and I'm just inviting you to come on a podcast, I'm not asking anything from you and you're someone of value. So from a guest perspective, people feel appreciated and they're more willing to come on your show. Have you found that to be a similar experience as well?
Yeah, actually, I said the same thing to other people is, when you reach out to people online, even though you don't know them, you are reaching out to them as who you are, right?
Yeah.
Who you are as a person, and you want to interview who they are as a person.
Yeah.
I mean, by the nature of your show, you're not the business conversation. That's so interesting because the conversation is so much like genuine compared to a sales call, right?
Yeah.
So I had the same experience. So I expanded my network drastically over the years. I just finished editing my 70th episode.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then a lot of my guests through my podcast, they also get to know other guests. So there was some synergy. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then I would be glad, if some of them have like a business partnership or collaboration. I think it's you are building your own small community, and I love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I totally resonate with that. And congratulations on starting the podcast episodes. You've done 17, you said?
70, yeah.
17. So here's to many, many more. And I really like the vision behind the podcast. I like that you're focusing on an area that I think a lot of people could learn and benefit from. So I really appreciate that. And congratulations again. Yasi, I just have 2 more questions for you. These are questions that I ask all my guests. So looking back, whether on your career or or something maybe personal for yourself, when you look back, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of is I never feel very scared about a new environment, be it a country or just a party. I know nobody. I feel I can always find a place for myself, or I can always grow from that environment, no matter where you throw me into, I guess. I think that's maybe it's a character, is a resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially that I think that would make a lot of sense since you traveled the world and worked in 8 different countries. So I think that would also having that characteristic must have helped you out, so much.
Yeah.
And for my last question, Yasi, what is the message you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
Okay, this is important. Start personal finance education now, and then take action right after.
I think
you will not regret it 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Really, then you will see when your friend buys a fancy, expensive car, you will not feel jealous. You will not feel like, oh, how come I cannot afford it? You will see differently. You will see, oh, I will not want to spend money on that depreciating assets. I want to put my money in appreciating assets, which will turn into 3 times the amount, like 5, 10 years later. You will really see everything completely on the other side. Trust me. Okay, mark that. Some of the audience, if you really see that, you can send me a message online.
Yes, please do. Please do. And I think that's a great message and a great way to end the show. Guys, make sure to, like Yas said, start now. And I like what you said, and take action right after. I think that's great advice that, for myself and for everyone listening to the podcast, I think they could learn a lot from just what you said and from our conversation today and so on. And so thank you so much, Yasi, for coming on the show. This has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I've learned a lot from you today. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who will take a lot of things away from our conversation as well. But for the people, if they want to get in touch with you, they want to work with you, let us know where we can find you. Plug it in.
Yeah, I would advise you just go to fasttrack.live. So that's the website. I think the new website will come out later this month in January. And then you can follow me on Twitter, is Yasi_Zhang. And then you can follow me on Instagram, is Fasttrack Podcast. Then you can find it there. Everything, I try to post a lot of educational content. I hope it helps.
Yeah, I hope it helps. That's what we try to do. So guys, you heard it here, fasttrack.live and fasttrack on Twitter and on Instagram and so on. She's posting great content all the time, so make sure to check it out. Yasi, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Guys, to everyone listening, thank you so much. As always, follow the podcast at hope.it.helps. Share it with your friends, subscribe. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.